Well, good afternoon. We will wait just a couple more minutes. We had a number of folks signed up to join us this afternoon, but we are so glad you are with us. Just to let everyone know, we use the ubiquitous Q&A tool, the question and answer tool here in Zoom. So as we go through all of our content and introduce our guests and have them share their expertise with us, if a question comes up in your mind, know that our chat is turned off, but you can park your questions in our Q&A tool, and we have reserved time in our session to answer all of your questions. Without further ado, I would like to welcome you all to this afternoon webinar in preparation for our what we call our Super Bowl, the 2026 Educators Rising National Conference. My name is John Hendren, and I am excited to have you here with us along to educate and help our teacher leaders feel confident about coming out to Portland and joining our national team. Whether this is your first time or you are a seasoned pro, we know that taking students to a big national event out of state is a big responsibility. And also, it's an incredible opportunity for our students. Today's webinar will be a panel discussion with two experienced state coordinators, all of whom have supported multiple delegations at national conferences and have seen just about everything from smooth, inspiring moments to the learning experience that make us all better planners the next time around. So I am thrilled to be joined by my colleagues Robin and Regina and two outstanding state coordinators. I'll ask our two state coordinators to briefly introduce yourselves, your state, how long you've been involved with Educators Rising, and how many times you've attended the national conference.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I am Dr. Michael Hill Shaner. I only ever get called Shaner within Educators Rising. I am proud to be Delaware's state and regional coordinator, and I am in my 30th year of Educators Rising and only did not attend the national conference from 2000 to 2007. Those are the only years I have not been at the national conference since 1995.
So I'm on the total opposite of that. Thanks, Shaner, for making me feel even worse. I'm Florence Scott. I'm sorry, I'm getting over a little bit of a cold, so please excuse my voice. I am the state and regional coordinator for the state of Alaska, and this is my second year with Educators Rising. And I am always proud to show off our students and the amazing work that they do at the national conference.
Okay, well, we're going to dive right in. So, from your experiences, what is the most important thing that chaperones should do before they even arrive out in Portland at the conference to set themselves and their students up for success? Florence, do you want to start?
I sure can. First and foremost, it's always communication, not just with our students, but with their parents, their guardians, making sure that travel arrangements, dress code stuff, emergency contacts, right? That's a really big one, especially our kids traveling from Alaska. Our travel is not easy. And so having emergency contacts and backup emergency contacts when it's the middle of the night is the best thing you can do for making sure that everything is set up for success. Our teacher leaders have regular parent meetings from the moment our state conference is over up until the week before we leave for nationals, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page, all the information is transparent, and everything is clear.
Sound advice?
And much like Florence, over communicate. You can never communicate enough to our families, to the school district as well. Making sure that they have a copy of anything updated of our itinerary, who's going where, who's in charge of who, right? even who's staying in what room. Um, but big advice is make a digital and a hard copy of all of your paperwork, right? Of copies of student IDs, their permission slips, emergency contacts, everything that you need. One, your cell phone will most likely die at some point in time, even if you bring a charging device with you, and now you have no access to any of your documents, right? So bring a charger, a portable, and do digital and hard copy. Or you might not have signal at some point. We have run into that before, where you frantically are trying to figure out, right? Let me flip through the documents, and I can then find someone's contact information right away, or where we need to be, or a flight number. But that is the biggest thing, is communicating with all parties involved and documentation.
And Shaner, I just did an international trip. I'm not sure if this restriction is for uh, travel within the United States, but they are getting persnickety about what types of charging batteries that you bring on airplanes. So I would just check with whatever you have to ensure with your airline that it's you can actually take it on the flight. Otherwise, you'll be leaving it behind with the folks at TSA. Okay. So one of the things that we're going to be sharing out for everybody who's registered for this webinar is a tip sheet. And one of the things that we emphasize in that tip sheet is mandatory pre-conference meetings. What are the non-negotiables that you always cover in these meetings with students and chaperones?
Uh, First and foremost is the travel logistics, right? So everyone is on the same page. Um, a packing list, not a suggested one. Like, we really detailed out a packing list of, like, here are the things that you should be bringing. Um, Behavior expectations, um, and then also our emergency response plans. What happens if there's a fire alarm at the hotel? What happens if we are out in a public setting and there is a storm? There is a warning that you need to seek cover for other events that happen in our world, right? We go over those things before students even leave, so that they're very well prepared and their parents know, because there's nothing worse than that event happening and you've not communicated that already.
Okay. Also, one of the things that we really pay attention to is our students' medical needs, making sure that we have a list of, I mean, obviously we don't want to cross any privacy lines, but we do want to have a list in case we need to do an emergency run to a pharmacy. And how can we make sure that their physical health is taken care of as well? Other than that, I don't have anything to add to what Shaner said.
I would suggest having a form for each medication that the child is bringing,
We
a
have it.
copy with the medicine and a copy with you. Because you might have a medical staff holding on to the medicine. It might be a student holding on to it, if it's an EpiPen or things like that, depending
Right.
on how your district runs it. But make sure you have a copy of each individual one. As a paramedic EMT, that is very important when you're responding to a patient, that I can pull out and say, here's the exact dosage, when they take it, when they last took it. So even on your sheet, if you can have a check mark of when they've administered the meds, so you can even track when it was last given, is a great tool.
Dress code questions come up every year. What are some of the common misunderstandings that chaperones and students have, and how do you handle them ahead of time?
Uh, this has been a source of many discussions in the state of Alaska this year. We talk about dress codes as in, if it's something that is appropriate to teach in, it is something that is appropriate to wear at the national conference. And if your teachers are wearing it, then that's okay. But if your teachers wouldn't wear it in the classroom, you probably shouldn't be wearing it at the national conference. We try not to give, we're very careful about making sure that we don't limit, especially cultural here in Alaska, cultural expressions, headgear, whether it's kuspuks or whatever. And if you see us at the national conference, if you see us at opening ceremony, Alaska's all wearing kuspuks this year. Um, so the idea is that dress code is different in based in where you are in this country and where you are within your, like, even in different communities in Delaware, for example, there's going to be different levels of what quote unquote professionalism is. But that's our basic rule is if it's something that your teachers are wearing in the classroom, then you should be able to wear it to the national conference.
Much like Florence, so I have been around through all of the regimes of our dress codes. And we do believe in the cultural competency at Educators Rising, right? So that students do see themselves and that we are honoring where they are and not making them feel like they don't belong. So with that, there is a great guide that kind of mirrors what it would look like to be a teacher at a conference. But I will tell you, no matter how much I detail out a packing list, I have been in an opening session when I look over and I see one of my schools walk in and a kid has a tank top, flip-flops, and shorts on, and then they think I look like someone is intruding as I take off running across the ballroom to talk to the kid about, like, do you have another outfit or is this the only thing we've packed? Let's talk through. And I've bought Ed Rising polos for kids because that is all they packed, right? So it's really going through and talking about, like, what are you packing? When are you wearing it? This is okay for hotel use. This is okay for going around Portland. This is okay for opening session, right? Maybe we're all wearing our state t-shirts or we're all wearing our state gear. And this is what you should be wearing for competitive events, right? Truly going through and making sure they understand that process. But like I said, I have been there where you're like, I have spoke to this child. I remember talking to your parent, and the only thing you packed was tank tops and shorts. And so he had every Ed Rising polo there was by the time I was done, right? Because I was like, I can't have him also feeling like he doesn't belong here, because then he gave that look of like, oh, I do not look like anybody else here. Nope. So let's have those conversations ahead of time of what's acceptable for your region for those kids.
And one of the things you both have already mentioned is communication and over communicating and talking to students. What are you planning on packing? What are you planning on packing? And of course, we know accidents can happen with airlines and luggage and all of that. So being prepared, as you say, may be something to think about. But for those that are looking for actual black and white dress code uh, guidelines. We've put those, we actually inaugurated today the conference daily, even though the conference has not yet started. We've lit up that area of the website. If you come to our website, I think it's the first thing you'll see at the top. And one of the posts that we've put there are the dress code guidelines. If that's helpful, I think we've also put that just in the chat. My next question is around, any lessons you've learned out of travel and logistics. So travel days can be most stressful because lots of variables are happening. You want to make sure everybody gets to where they need to be on time. What lessons have you all learned about flights, airports, and transportation that you hope every chaperone coming to our conference this year would know about?
Um, One thing I will tell you is when preparing to travel on a flight or anything that is not your school district vehicle, um, we actually recommend that you have an administrator or a school resource officer support you, and we actually check the bags prior to leaving to make sure that there are no materials in the bags that should not be on a flight or should not be at the conference. And the student can be present, the student cannot be present. It depends on how your district likes to do it. But that is a great way to start to make sure that we are not taking anything that we shouldn't. Um, Going through and making sure that everyone has their ID if they need it because of their age. That is the real ID. You check that prior to when you're doing those parent meetings. You check it when they bring their bag. Let me see your ID. Let me see meds. Let me see your bag. Right. And like I'm checking off, and we even do a check sheet when I used to do this of like, and I'm going to do this again this year, right? Lonnie has her meds, check. Lonnie has her ID, check. Lonnie has the bag, nothing in it that we need to worry about, check. Your bag is over here now waiting. Um, and then as far as when you get them to the airport, and you get them to baggage check or anything like that, making sure that you have a leader in the front, a leader in the middle, and a leader in the back, depending on how large your group is. You will have ADHD moments and wander the wrong way or lose a child somewhere because they have stopped to tie a shoe, right? You need to keep them within a limitation of you.
Wholeheartedly agree with all of that. And I actually wrote down the bag check prior to leaving because we've not implemented that. And I think that's a great idea. Thank you, Shaner. So travel, like I've mentioned, travel from Alaska is a unique experience. Our last year is a great example. We had students, so there were fires. It's Alaska. We have summer fires, and we had students that got stuck in Nome. So they came from their village on a little like six-seater plane to Nome, where they boarded a bigger plane to go to Anchorage, to go from Anchorage to Seattle, and then Seattle to Orlando. And they got delayed in Nome for almost 72 hours. They, Regina, I mean, I'm telling anybody, if you ever have a question about competitions, find Regina because she is a miracle worker. Our students were supposed to arrive on, I think it was Wednesday afternoon. They ended up arriving on Saturday night at 11 p.m. And Regina got them into a competition the next morning before the competition period ended. It was amazing. So yeah, we need to have that communication. We need to have backup plans. District contacts are really, really important for delays. If you end up having to stay in a hotel, who's paying for that? How is that funding coming? Where is that funding coming from? Who's going to feed the kids? We do the chaperone at the front, chaperone in the middle, chaperone in the back for our larger groups. And it's always, they have a direct line. We create a group chat with all of our chaperones and myself and my coordinator, so that we can all be like, if there's a delay, a major delay, everybody's in the loop, but they can also text me directly and say, hey, our flight's been held, whatever. And that way we can be in communication going back, especially if they're stuck in an airport and losing signal and doing all the stuff. It's all about being flexible. I tell everyone that this is like the education world. You can be as organized and as detailed as you want to be, and the sand is still going to move under your feet. So you still got to be ready to shift and be flexible and make sure that the students are safe. First and foremost, safety rules are not negotiable, but also that they're feeling safe and secure. They're not starving. They're not like, it's hard. It's hard traveling with groups of students, but that's also the experience that they're learning from.
So I imagine that you all have traveled with students who this may be the first time they go on an airplane, first time they go through all the security apparatus at an airport. Um, we have done our own research on this. TSA officially does not require children under the age of 18 to provide identification when traveling, but airline rules can be different. What advice do you have for both parents and the students traveling, especially if they're not used to traveling across the country?
One thing I will say is as a backup, because some of our students, my daughter included, has been coming to national since seventh grade, right? This will be her third national conference. She does not have an ID, right? So for some of those students, we print out their school system page that has their photo ID, all of their contact information, their home address. So it's basically their demographics page within your school system. So it's not just their photo ID, it's literally that page. And then we also have them bring their school ID with them. So you can use that to match up. We have used that before with even some of our kids that are 16, 17 that sometimes an airline will question. Um, and they're also going to question because not all of my students look like me or that they would belong to me. So they know I'm not a parent and they might not just really let you take them on the plane, right? So that's a good way to keep a copy of all of that and have a student have a copy. I will also say, those of you that have ever met my daughter, she is a Hispanic and African American child. So we will also be traveling with her birth certificate at this time. So will Lonnie Carrera, my state staff member. So keep that in mind as well, that some of your staff members or your students might need to bring additional documentation to support them while traveling.
I agree with you, Shaner. We have several of our teachers are teaching on visas. And so they are bringing all of their documentation, but also their teaching contract that shows that they're bringing their print copy of their teaching contract with them. We don't anticipate problems, but we want to make sure that if there are problems, we're ready to step in and help on a moment's notice.
The other thing, which I always do myself, I get to the airport early. And I imagine if you're not used to that, you may not realize that you have to get there early. So emphasizing with students about what time you all plan to leave and all of that would be important. Um, you mentioned, I think it was Shaner that mentioned having, uh, you know, contact folks available in your Rolodex, having it in printout. Any more you want to add about like having an on the ground point person in case something goes wrong?
So typically that does start with me as the state director. So anytime any of our schools have an issue, I am the person, but as soon as I go in the air, it then transitions over to a staff member that stays behind um, from our state level to help support the schools at that time. And then they also have your local CTE director or a principal that once again, because you've already shared the plans with them, making sure that they are aware that you guys have boarded the plane and we are now on, or if anyone is needing additional assistance, such as they are trapped at an airport, right? That you can have that conversation with them.
We
And
also I'm sorry, John. I just
no,
want
go
to add,
ahead.
we're creating a spreadsheet that has every single group's flight numbers, arrival times, everything start to finish, all on a single spreadsheet. And that's being like, obviously our team all has a copy of that, but it also has the district emergency contact person, whether that's the principal or the of that school or the CTE director or whoever it is that they've identified as their emergency contact at the district level, so that we can easily, if something happens, we know who exactly to contact.
And if I could, I'd just like to add that part of the reason why things worked out so well last year was because teacher leaders were in communication with Florence. Florence was in communication with me, and things were able to pivot smoothly because one person was giving me this information and I didn't have to try and track 20 kids. I was in communication with Florence. So the easier or the more communication that the teacher leaders are having with that person, who's tracking their whereabouts, the easier it is for anything that we need to do as national staff, that makes it easier for us to help too.
Regina, I'll just add for those that haven't picked up on it, if there are travel delays, we do our best to ensure that students still have opportunities to compete.
And I would say that, as they're finding out these challenges, we're on site. So please don't email. You're better to don't send it to the major info box because we may not check that. You need to communicate directly with Regina or call us or whatever, but don't try to we're not just going to be able to be checking our email regularly. The whole staff travels to the
So what I
conference.
did, just for everybody's reference, what I did is I went to the registration desk and I said, I need to talk to Regina. This is my phone number. Please have her call me. And she did. And then we were texting back and forth. Like I could look at this thread. It's like ridiculously long thread of conversation back and forth. This flight's delayed, these groups, etc. So I just went to the registration desk and said, I need to talk to Regina.
That is the very best, Florence, you could have done. The registration desk, if you are on site, go to that registration desk. They can get a hold of any of us that need to be pulled into this.
And without knowing that these things are going on, competitions just keep moving, the process just keeps going. So without knowing that there's an issue, they would have been marked as a no-show, judges would have been released at the end of the competition, and then there would have been nothing that we could do to accommodate. But being informed ahead of time helps everything run smoother.
I think Shaner mentioned the words real ID. I just want to reiterate, real ID went into effect back on May 7th of 2025. And I was on a school trip when I was in high school, and I remember one of the chaperones got to the airport and forgot everything. And they didn't get to go on the trip. So I would say that if you have not traveled on through the airlines in the past year and a half, you are going to need a real ID as an adult chaperone. So ensure that you have that. I believe a passport is also a valid way to show your identity.
I have one question for the two panelists. Do you recommend that they try to just get all their stuff into a carry-on bag, or do you allow them to check luggage?
We suggest carry on, mostly because of all of the flight issues getting in and out of Alaska. We can't tell them otherwise, but also they don't want to pay for checked bags. So, so they're usually pretty good about carry on only, but there's going to be those that do check their bags. Shaner?
I was going to say, we feel the same way. We try our best because we can't afford to do a check bag. And if we had to for any reason, most of my state staff does do a checked bag because we also bring extra supplies with us. So that is something to think about as well. As you think about what needs to be there for competition, you can ask some of our state teacher leaders in Delaware, like if your kid comes to a competition and they don't have the materials they need, Shaner will run out and print and find folders and get the things you need. But a lot of times I actually travel as the state director with laminators and everything that I can. And I do it in a checked bag. Like I have a checked bag of conference supplies. So think about like, where can you go when you get to Portland if something is forgotten for competition? How are you getting supplies to Portland? Right? That's what you have to think about as part of this packing and traveling process as we move forward. Because we have been there where a student literally shows up with nothing, but they had a carry-on. They had the right conference clothes, but they didn't have their materials.
I'm so sorry, but we actually are offering for our students because they're interactive. So this was the first year just because we're not a very big state. We don't offer all the competitions. So this was the first year that we offered interactive bulletin board on site at our state conference. And our students are very excited to compete at the national level, but they're very worried about bringing their bulletin boards. So I've told them bring their materials for their bulletin boards, and I will supply bulletin boards on site and all the materials they need to build it in their hotel room so that they don't have to worry about transporting the bulletin board and then it getting destroyed.
That's good advice. I would not have that. So I want to pivot now and talk about, what happens when you arrive on site. And for us, and for you all that come with us year after year, it's different every year because we're in a different location. Things are in different places, and you'd spend the first few days getting acclimated to everything. I have a few visuals to help, and then I'm going to dive into a couple questions. Um, so this is a generalized concept of a conference center. And when you come in to register, you're going to be with your students. And our registration area is for teacher leaders. And when you approach, it's going to look something like this, where we're going to have different lanes that are in alphabetical order, in different clusters here. The important thing to remember is you are looking for the letter that represents your school name as a teacher leader. So if you are going to Avon High School, you'll go to the A's, even though your name may be Zuckerberg, and you might think you go to the Z's. It's by the school name. And again, this is teacher leaders only. Students can't go and collect registration materials. And you need to think about, obviously, where your kid's going to be while you're waiting in line. Depending on the time of day that you come, the line could be long, the line could be short, but you'll find out when you get there. You'll get your materials from our staff when you get to that line, and that will include the bags that we have for stowing content throughout the conference. There's other areas. We have an Educators Rising store that you'll see that will be in the proximity. And then we're going to have another area where you can pick up bundles. And again, specifically, we know bundle pickup this year is in room C121. And we want to emphasize that everybody who is on site in the conference center, once you're registered, you're going to be passing out those conference badges to your students and encourage them to wear them at all activities. This is both for security. We want to make sure that everybody in that conference center belongs there. And it just helps us with so many things. Always have the badges. And of course, if a student were to lose a badge, you're going to come back to our registration area and let us know, because that's not a good excuse, well, I lost it, right? So let's start with just advice. You're coming on site. I've already mentioned who can pick up registration materials. How are the materials organized when they go to pick them up? Maybe this is for our staff to answer.
So what we do is we group the name badge inserts, and we put those with any ribbons that the students or the teacher leader may be eligible for. So there's ribbons for presenters, there's the teacher leader ribbons, the student ribbons, which are pretty obvious. There's some additional ribbons for like our ambassadors, our national officers. Delegate ribbons this year will not be given out until the delegate meeting, so that won't be there. But those are all going to be in this envelope with the school's name on it. It will also have in there any bundle cards. So if you've purchased bundles, there'll be a ticket in there for you to use to go pick up your bundles. There will be any dietary cards. So if you have students that have dietary restrictions, make sure those are on the registration form. If they're not there, we won't have any cards for them, and it will make it more difficult for them to get their special meals. If it's on there, We will have those in there. They're not identified by student. The students should pretty much know, or the teacher should know who has those dietary restrictions, but they're all in one envelope. And it will say on the outside, there are 20 kids, one teacher leader, and you will be handed that. They're responsible for checking their names to make sure that they're all correct. We will have some printers on site, so if there needs to be a name correction, happy to make those. We'll just put you in a different lane to get that taken care of. There'll be on the table the bags that you need to pick up. You'll pick up the number of bags, the lanyards and the little plastic holders. And then you can take that to your students and they can help carry and assemble everything. I will say, please let your students know that if there is something wrong with their name badge, that they can have it reprinted. We will gladly change it. We had a student last year who was wearing their name badge backwards, and we asked them why they were doing that. And it wasn't the name that they wanted to go by. That's okay. The teacher put it in the way it was on the school record, I'm sure, but that's not what they went by. Let us know. We want people to have the name on their name badge that they want to be called by. And we will gladly change it for them. So if that happens, don't let your students stress out. Just have them go over to the line and we will get it corrected.
And with that, I want to point out, because I was with the student when that happened, I was in the competition area. I was greeting every kid. Rob and I had the conversation, and to watch that student feel like they belonged somewhere for the first time, and then for them to come back and say that meant the world to them. So please know that this staff will 100% care for your children. And so there is something that they need. Don't hesitate to ask. They might not be able to give you what you need always, but they are there to support you. So always find Regina and Robin, or someone at the registration desk, to ask and say, this is what I need. But with that, as you're coming to the registration desk, we've reiterated more than once, do not bring every student with you. But also, do not leave them in a herd, random locations. Because what you think is, well, I'm going to go in this registration line. You all wait right here, which is 2 steps away from the registration line. You have now blocked the pathway. So I would suggest finding a nice, safe, secure location that another leader is standing with the children as you go up and get the materials. Because we have that often where everyone still flocks to the lines. And yes, only one teacher leader comes in, but no one else can make it to the lines. Or they think like, oh, I've got to wait for all of these 50 students to move, right? So let's just make sure we have a safe location for them and let them enjoy just being there, and not stressing about, I'm waiting to get my name tag.
Send them on a tour. Have somebody lead a tour around and see where all the rooms are. That's a great idea to do while they wait, because there could be a little bit of a line for sure. And what Shaner said, I just want to reiterate, I have actually loaned jackets and sweaters to kids that needed something. So ask us. We have all kinds of supplies available for various things. I've had kids ask, hey, can I borrow a post-it pad? Yeah, we got post-it notes here. We'll help you. We can't obviously supply everyone with one, but if you've got a kid that needs something, don't let that be one of the stressors for them. Have staff have our matching shirts on, just say, go see a staff person, see if they can help you.
Yes, that's important. Robin keeps us dressed similarly each day. It's not always the same outfit. We do freshen up from day to day, but we should be easy to spot. Robin, I know one question that sometimes pops up. I've been around in education long enough to know that when people order things like t-shirts, they're not always the right size when you get them. What do folks do if they run into that type of situation?
So if they've pre-ordered a t-shirt, or it's part of the bundle, we will be giving the size that they chose. But we also have extra stock usually in the store. So if they get there early, I would say if they realize the size is wrong, go immediately to the store and see if it can be swapped out. If we have the size, we generally can do that for them. Now, there could be times that we don't have any sizes left, and then we are kind of stuck, but we generally will have a size that they can swap.
And we already mentioned this, but sometimes we want to say things more than once just so people remember. Do they go to the store to get those bundles that they've ordered?
No, there is a designated room. It's in C121. There'll be a sign. You'll see a table with people, and you'll just check in. You've got X number of tickets that you're picking up. The staff and our volunteers will run and get those bundles for you and bring them out, but they will not be available in the store. A lot of the bundle items are available for sale in the store, but if you've pre-purchased the bundles, you want to go pick yours up because it's been pulled for you in that C121 room.
Robin, if can they pick up their bundle before they register?
No, because they're going to need the tickets that come in the envelopes for bundle pickup. There's these special colored tickets that they will have, and that's what's going to allow them to pick up their bundles.
So we don't want anybody waiting in line unnecessarily. So go to registration first, get your materials, distribute the lanyards, name badges to your students, and then if you've ordered a bundle, you can pick that up. Anything else around just generally getting there from our two coordinators, and then we'll move on.
Just make sure you know how you're getting from the airport to the conference center or your hotel.
One of the things that we have this year, once you get to registration and you check in, everybody is getting a train card that will help you move around the city. It'll be free. It will help you get back to the airport. There is a train that comes from the airport, so if you don't have other plans and you want to try the train, it's very inexpensive to go from the airport to the hotels, the hotel area.
I've actually given the links for that to all of our teacher leaders because it one gets the students experienced on riding the train, but also it's really, really inexpensive and we have big groups. Like some of our groups are 40 kids. So the transportation is a major challenge for larger groups.
And one of the things that I think folks should know when they get on site at the conference center, our staff, and you'll see me with a camera there. I'm one of the people that take pictures. We'll be taking lots of pictures of you. Um, and you sign a disclaimer knowing that you may be photographed. You're in a semi-public space. We're going to be photographing. We love to get groups of students from various schools, various states together. I would just say in the vein of making sure everybody's comfortable. Um, I like to ask, may I take your picture? We don't always get to do that. If anybody feels uncomfortable with having their photo taken in a situation like that, please just let us know. There's no harm in us accommodating your comfort with that. But now let's talk about supervision. Um, how does one realistically manage small groups of students in a place that's new? It's not your normal school environment. And there's a lot of other students around, and some of them are uh, very gregarious and want to meet these other students from all over the country. How do you guys manage all that when you get on site?
So one thing I would say, and Florence has kind of talked about this with like the chaperones, is having that group text. We also utilize things like Remind 101 or Group Me that you can utilize for as a free resource for your students to sign up that you can send out alerts or they can communicate back and forth. Therefore, you're not sharing a phone number. Um, in Delaware, we have an app built through our website, so I can communicate to all members through our app that's on their phone or via text message that way. But making sure that they have a way to communicate with you is step one. Making sure that they reiterate the expectations of how they are traveling, right? So no one at any point in time should be going alone to a bathroom, even in a hotel setting, right? We always have our groups of three, not even just the group of two, aim for the group of three. Um, and making sure that they understand the checkpoints that they understand what each signal means of when we say where you need to be via those messages. A thing that we do, and there is 1 year I did not do it in all of my 30 years. I did not tape the doors at night. 1 year. And Robin got a phone call that year from me saying, "We need to have a conversation, Robin, because we had this happen." Right? So what we do is we actually at the evening is tape the door after the students' rooms have been checked for their bedtime. Um, and then we can see if they have entered or exit. And then that's also just a deterrent to them knowing like Shaner's going to know if you walked out of your room. So it keeps them in their room. They can contact us via the Remind app or Group Me if they need to leave the room for any reason, which they should not. But things happen. But that is a way that you can kind of also just keep accountability. And then as a teacher leader, I can walk the halls at random times throughout the night to just confirm that my kids are safe.
Okay, so I never thought of the tape trick, but I like it. I like that one. Ours is very similar. It's mostly like clear communication. They know what's expected of them, and yeah, it's communication. Like Shaner said at the very beginning, you can't over communicate with families and districts. You can't over communicate with your students during the conference. We do like whole group check-ins for the state at the state level, and then the teacher leaders do individual small group check-ins with their students throughout the conference because I don't expect them to stay in that small group all the time. I don't want them to. I want them to network. I want them to meet new people and get outside of their comfort zone. And safety first. And so we work on that a lot. That's it.
Any of you use any visibility strategies? I know a lot of schools will come dressed similarly. In large groups, I've even seen teacher leaders carry small flags. Those are ideas that certainly you could use, especially if you have larger groups. The other question I have is, and this changes every year depending where we are and how it's set up, but any advice for dealing with the hotel being separate from the convention center and being prepared so you're not having to go back and forth?
Absolutely. One, so our visual aid is the guy that looks like Guru. They all know who I am, so it's pretty easy for them to find me. That is how we identify our Delaware crew. But for our going back and forth with the hotels, so this has happened to us multiple times. What we do is schedule blocks of times that students could go back, that maybe you're not competing, you're not in workshop times, right? And they're done in segments. So there's always an advisor going back with them. And some students will say, well, I want to stay and do this. Okay, well, then you're staying with this advisor as your check-in point. Having those talks before that time comes up and who is assigned as chaperones to go back when. And so we're doing those in segments, but also cuts down. Well, luckily this year we have the transportation, right? But sometimes you don't. So it cuts down on how you're getting students back and forth. I'm not paying for 10 Ubers, right? Or I'm not worried about them walking alone, right? We have someone that's constantly in that schedule. Sometimes we also schedule it for them. Your competitive event time is in this window. You will be at the conference center during these times. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, because you are competing during that time frame. And then you can go back when your time frame is over, but you're within a window.
We use the scheduled times as well. Last year was tricky just because we had some of our always the stragglers that were at the hotel offsite, and so and then the shuttle they were calling me and they were like, the shuttle's not running, and I'm like, well, no, because it only runs in the morning. You're supposed to already be here. Why are you not here already? So we established this is the time that you can go back if you want to go back to the hotel. But it was luckily it was just for a small group. And then so this year it should be a lot easier. And the teacher leaders are really good at communicating with me. So if they need to split up their group, they have a group of 6 and 3 need to go back to the hotel. We can pull in another chaperone to help, so that make sure that our students are never without a chaperone.
So we touched upon what to wear. The other side of concerns I know when you're traveling with students is how well they be behaved. National conference is both a student experience and we really consider a professional event. How do you help students understand and meet those expectations for professionalism while, still enjoying themselves?
Ours is that this is our spiel to start when we first start prepping is we talk about how they're not just going to, this isn't a vacation. This is a professional learning environment. And when I go to a conference, I don't get to go shopping when my breakout session is over. I am there to learn and to network and to grow. And that's why they're coming. So we have a lot of conversations about representing your community and representing your family and representing the state of Alaska with pride. Um, but we also we use the pins. The pins are such the little state pins, and they're such a great tool for our students to ice break and network with other students. And so we tell them that if they see someone that's walking around that doesn't have an Alaska pin, they should go introduce themselves and share a pin and build their professional network, because that's something we're trying to show them, is that they're not alone. Even if they move out of state of Alaska, Educators Rising is all over. And so the behavior that they're expected to model is professional behavior, like act like you are a professional and you're young adults, and we know that you're capable of it. So we're just going to expect it of you. And we haven't, I've only been doing this for 2 years, but I haven't had any complaints from anyone at nationals about our students' behavior. So far I'm going to trust that it's working.
And then with us, same things apply, right? With the addition of if there are any things that come up or that we think are getting close to the line, we have restorative practice circles that we do with them where we bring in additional adults and we talk through our expected behavior. How does this impact things? How does this impact our state, right? And do self-reflections. What steps should we do correct? If you need another one of those, then the conversation is then Shaner might not allow you to come back to the state conference and to the national conference. It is just like your job. You might not be asked to be employed anymore. You are here as part of your job. But I will say, as part of helping plan all this as well, think that we are working with students that want to go into the field of education. Okay. This is an easy class project of having them plan a trip. How are you doing meals? How are you doing transportation? The kids can engage in the planning process. How are you scheduling who's going to what session? Having the kids sign up for sessions ahead of time that way, right? Because they've already pre-selected where they're going to go. Now I have a list of where kids could go. But having them help build it, because then they can also put on their resume or in their work-based learning portfolio that I have designed a field trip. And I have managed, right? So they understand, they've written expectations. They've already modeled the behavior that we want them to see as teachers. So utilize that space. And you can use every kid in the program, even if they're not coming to nationals, because it's still a skill that falls within the Educators Rising program.
That's
Okay.
genius. Love that.
So sometimes problems do arise during mealtime and when there's lulls in the schedule. What systems have you all seen work well for managing meals and downtime responsibly?
I will say the actual first problem with mealtime is that they have not learned how to budget money. And so they have spent it at the store, at an amusement park, buying Skittles. And then it comes time to dinner and they say, I have no money. So we have learned to help budget ahead of time, where they actually go through where we talked about using some of your class time or your um, just a meeting time within your organization, right? Of mapping out what do I need spending wise. You can look up what the government rate is for that area so you can determine what is an appropriate amount for breakfast, lunch, and dinner when they're not provided by the conference. Having the kids pre-budget. So that's the first thing. I know it's not a behavior thing, but it is something you will encounter. There will always be one kid that eats their way through that conference and junk food and buys every little trinket and does not have money for dinner um, on day one. Not the end of the conference, on day one, because they've never been out of their state or away at a conference, right? So first, let's start with how are you going to spend your money? And then with those expectations are we have already mapped out when and where we are eating, right? So there are those clear expectations of this is food time, this is where we're eating. We have pre-done reservations, or if it's a grab and go, we know it's a grab and go, right? So you're pre-planning that out because if not, then oh, we're trying to fit 20 students in a restaurant. Well, it's a 2 hour wait, or we can't accommodate you. And now you're spending 2 hours trying to find a place to feed them, and now they're all hangry, and behaviors start to happen because they're hangry, right? So pre-planning those meals out of where you're going to eat, um, and then just reminding them of those expectations. This we should be tipping, we should be right. Here are the things that go along with you going out into the real world as an adult. And with all of that, you're teaching employability and social emotional skills. So if you're teaching this ahead of time, those are some standards you can be using. You can use the Castle standards for social emotional learning. So if a principal asks you what you're teaching, I am teaching social emotional learning, financial literacy, and life skills. Right? So teaching that ahead of time is going to set the stage for it.
And I will say the convention center has several food outlets for grab and go this year. So how they can handle crowds, we'll see. But there are several different, and they're going to have kid-friendly type foods at them. Actually, foods for me. That's what that is.
So beyond supervision, we know that chaperones also play a role in student growth. And thank you, Shaner, for even supplying us with a set of standards we can use to talk about how we do that. Um, how do you all find any tips on how to ensure that students are truly engaging with the activities that are on offer, the breakout sessions, and then being able to network with others? We know some students are outgoing and they will have no issues with that. We also have students who may be more introverted. But the one thing I remember hearing from so many students as I've interviewed them is it was so cool. I got to meet somebody from some state so far away. So, what advice do you have for chaperones around supporting student engagement?
Well, last year we did a small scavenger hunt where students had to engage with so many people in the college and career fair, and they had to engage directly with someone whose breakout session they had attended. And but this year we actually are doing it on a goose chase. So it's, I mean, super like engaging for the kids, but also like it encourages them to choose, right? They don't have to do all of the missions in the goose chase, but to meet one of the incoming national officers and ask them what one piece of advice would they give. To meet an SRC from another state and ask them if they've met your SRC and what do they think of them, right? Just talk to other people around the conference and meet people and engage. But also, like your group has a a creation challenge, and our student officers are finished. We haven't finished our goose chase yet because our student officers are helping us build it. But the idea is that it's engaging, it's encourages them to get out of their comfort zone, and it actually helps with the downtime lull in behavior, because now you can, if you see somebody just sit and scroll in their phone, you say, oh, what mission are you working on your goose chase, right? And so it encourages them. And it's just one of the ways that we are working to have them engage more deeply with the entire conference rather than just go for their competition and then hang out with their friends.
For those that don't know, Goose Chase is an app.
Oh, yeah, sorry. One of our teacher leaders did it at our state conference last year, and it was like just watching the kids engage with it. And so I reached out to them, and we've been using them off and on throughout the year. So yeah.
Good idea.
I love that. So we talked about students attending the workshops, right, of having them pre-select. You can add that to your goose chase, of them doing a reflection of it. But I will say, Florence mentioned the pen trading earlier as well. That has blown up and been amazing. But I will share the importance behind networking. So once again, this is my 30th year. I actually was the best man of a wedding from a student from Alaska. And I went to Anchorage. We had been the nationals together all 4 years in high school, attended a conference with Robin our senior year, the junior into our senior year, and I was the best man at his wedding and flew out. So when we say like that networking and the relationship that these kids build truly does like stay for a long period of time. And my kids, I know my officer team looks for those other kids that they've seen year after year, right? And it's now let's talk about what's going on at your state. What can we bring back and forth? Which led us to Delaware and Maryland doing joint activities together, right? Because our officers got so used to trying to find each other. This is now how we're growing things. So really encourage them that like you're going to make a lifelong friend possibly out of this. And this is how you can engage with them.
I also happen to have a little bit of insider information that our ambassadors are going to have, our national ambassadors are going to have an assignment to collect pictures with different states, with students from different states. So look for them too. Look for the ambassadors and shout out Alaska and see if they have a photo with Alaska yet, and help them meet their mission too.
I would also say that the National Student Officers this year are going to have some pins to give out. So definitely connect with the student officers as well.
Any tips for downtime with students while they're at the conference center? I have seen some teacher leaders leading some pretty cool activities with some of their students, but I don't know if you have any tips for that.
I'm gonna probably, this is probably gonna be an odd perspective, but our kids get overstimulated.
Uh,
It's a lot. They come from a village, or I mean, even our biggest town, Anchorage, is like we're small, but like our communities are small. We're super connected, but our geography is so spread out that like being in a conference center with 4,000 kids is overwhelming for our kids. So one of the things that I did last year is I ordered pizza, and I just had grabbed one of the little conference rooms, and our kids just had time to just be quiet and not have to engage with anybody outside of their friends. Um, and it was so helpful, like recognizing where your kids are and trying to meet those needs. There are amazing teacher leaders and chaperones and SRCs that are doing super engaging stuff, but don't forget that that social capital takes its toll on kids and people that aren't used to being around large groups and really enjoy quiet sometimes. So making sure you honor that is really important, I think.
Lawrence, I think it's really cool that you encourage your students to interact with SRCs and ask them questions. The other thing I would just let everybody know is to encourage your students to Engage with those who are leading breakout sessions. The folks who are presenting on behalf of us for the conference and who want to share their knowledge and expertise are there because they want to help these students. And they have obviously, they can only share so much within such a short period of time. But if your students have questions or want to engage with them or get their business card, please encourage them to do so. They are there for the benefit of everybody who comes. So my final question, if you could give chaperones, especially those who've not been through this experience before, a single piece of advice or warn them about one common mistake, what might it be?
Oh, so many mistakes can happen. Um, so the first thing is realizing that you have to roll with it. That no matter how much you plan, it will not go as planned. I can plan out every second of everything that we do, and something will happen. So understanding that Florence said it earlier, just like the classroom, something will not happen that you thought was going to happen. Um, Always go through this with the lens of this is a growth opportunity for every student. So even if there is a misstep, even if there's a misstep on your part, right? Like we thought we were taking the train and we've missed the train. Okay. Make that a teachable moment for the kids. Show them that this is a growth opportunity for you and them. The whole point behind this is for them to grow as leaders and education professionals of our future, right? So what you don't want to do is dim the light over one thing that happens. So start thinking about how can I utilize the staff that's with me so that I can do a pull aside and say, hey, Robin, come here for a second. And I can talk to Robin while the staff are remaining doing other things. Right. And if you're with a really small group, then it's like, hey, you guys go make a video for me over here while I talk to this kid. Get tricks in your bag so that you can quickly pivot to make that a teachable moment and support the student through that process.
My catchphrase is we're practicing the life skill of flexibility. No matter what, we have to be flexible because that's what our kids are watching and they're going to see how we respond when something goes wrong. So we're going to be flexible and we're going to adapt. And I think where chaperones tend to get into trouble is because they become fixated on something instead of recognizing, okay, like Shaner said, I'm learning, we're learning, and we're gonna continue to practice the life skill of flexibility.
And I would also say celebrate the kids as much as possible. So in Delaware, we handwrite letters to every student in the state of Delaware that's competing. And then my staff walks around and we find every kid before their competition and we give them a handwritten letter that is specific to them and their competition or their leadership experience. And then we greet them afterwards to see how they did. And whether they are first in the nation or you are last in the nation, we still celebrate that you made it here and that you got through the competition and that you're being successful in your journey, right? So celebrate, 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 because that's going to change their mindset.
Well, I appreciate your both of your experiences and sharing what you've learned, the sage advice that you can overplan and things still can go awry. Stay calm. We are here from Educators Rising to assist you on site. I want to just cover a couple little things that I think people might be curious about. The first one I'm just going to reiterate. There are train cards that you will get when you register on site that will help you travel around the Portland area. Um, those don't come to you before then, but they will be a part of your registration packet. One of the things that inevitably happens is folks, because of scheduling, need to leave. They cannot attend the awards ceremony. Now I'm looking at Robin and Regina. What happens if they cannot attend the award ceremony?
So if they cannot attend, we email the certificates if they place in the top 10. That is to the email address on the competition application. So they need to make sure that they are able to access that email address during the summer. If they want their awards shipped to them, there is a fee for that because obviously we have to pay for postage and staff time to put it together. We say that we will ship the awards. They're $20 per award to the student's home address because we cannot ship to a school for a student. So they will be shipped to the student's home address. They need to be requested during that the appeal time for competitions. So when we say that the rubrics are released, you have the time to review it and appeal it. We want all of those requests in for competitions to be mailed as quickly as possible during that appeal time. I don't want to be getting requests for those awards to be shipped in November, which I have had before, so that we won't be doing that. So, if you don't quite make that window and you need a little extra time for shipping of the awards, then we can work with you. We cannot work with you on the appeal for the competitions, and that's some things that people don't quite understand on the competitions, that we share out the rubrics through a download, so they log into their platform. They're able to download those scores and rubrics themselves. And if there is some questions on that, they have a 3-day window to submit any appeals for that competition. Then our staff will review it and make any adjustments or final considerations on that.
Robin, when folks look at the schedule for the competitions, there are some marked as open to spectators.
Mhm.
But aside from those, which are most of them, tell us how that works, and can the teacher leader accompany the student?
So those competitions, which we call closed competitions, are only for the participant and the judges. No family, no teacher leaders, no other students can be in that room at that time. The ones that are public, we have 3 of those competitions, can have people sitting in the audience because they are public speaking type competitions, and we need an audience actually. But the others are all absolutely closed. So if someone wants to watch, they need to be presenting in the hallway to whoever wants to watch it because they will not be allowed in the room. Please don't even
And
come begging for that because it's not going to be allowed. Just
Well,
do chaperones have to walk students to the competition area?
no,
and
no.
so I will add to what Robin was talking about. Another thing to solve that downtime problem is scheduling times for students to present to state staff or their peers throughout the state to practice the competition prior to going in. And you do not have to walk them down, right? It is great to walk them to the entrance and then go to the next one if you need to. But we also have people that are part of the advising staff that are going to cheer them on because they're constantly running around and they will ask the kids the entire time. I think every kid has talked to Robin at one point in time in their life about their competition. So do not worry about, is my kid going to be happy going into competition? They will see someone from Ed Rising that will cheer them on as they're going.
And we have staff stationed everywhere.
We do. And they are actually trying to keep the hallways clear of extra people aside from competitors so that the students actually in the room that are presenting aren't hearing a lot of shuffling outside or a group saying, all right, go ahead, go into your competition. Somebody's presenting at that time. So we try to keep the hallways clear and quiet as much as possible.
You will actually even see signs that say competition quiet zone. And if you're making too much noise, staff will come tell you to cool it, or you'll be asked to leave the area because we do want to respect the students' time. And it's very distracting. While everybody wants to support the competitors as they're going in, we have to keep it quiet through there.
Robin, I think I saw this question come up. Where do teacher leaders find competition times?
So Regina will be posting competition schedules on Monday, this coming Monday. Don't look for them first thing in the morning, probably be late in the afternoon that they're going to get posted. They will also be available at the competition, at the registration desk for the conference. You can't take that book away, but it will be there. You can take a picture of it. We'll also post it in the app. So they'll be able to download it and see it right in the app. There is no switching of competition times. So what they have is what they get. Um, Make sure that they note what time they're supposed to be there and arrive early. I would say arrive at least 15 minutes early, because if the competitions are moving fast, they will take you early if you're around. So definitely plan to arrive a little bit early. Most of the rooms are real easy to find this year. We have one group of suites called the Holiday Suite that has 8 rooms in the one suite. So teachers will not be allowed to enter the Holiday Suite, only competitors, and only about 30 minutes before, up to 30 minutes before their actual competition, because it is kind of a small area. But we will have a map this year, so Shaner won't have to stand guard at the doors, so that people can see visually what this room looks like from the outside. Shaner was great at guarding and having traffic control last year, but we're going to give him a break from that. So hopefully that'll help with that.
And make sure
Unknown.
you refresh your app when you get there. You shouldn't need to, but last year we were told all along that the rooms were called something, and so that's what was listed in the schedule. And then when we arrived, we were like, "Oh no, they actually have a number, not a name." And so we edited that and refreshed it in the schedule and re-released it. But unless you refreshed your app, you didn't get that update. And so make sure that when you arrive, you refresh your app and make sure that you have the most up-to-date information.
Now I know some folks, Regina, will go to the app store, they'll search for Educators Rising, they'll find our app. It's a blue icon with our logo on it. Um, I know the questions are inevitably going to come. How do they get into the app once it's downloaded?
They will use the email address that they used to register for the conference, and then that's their username, and then their password will be their last name with the first letter capitalized.
Okay.
And I've actually
Um,
done a test run and it actually works.
as did I, and we tested the push notification, and that worked too. Went right to my Apple Watch. That was really cool. Um, so the app is great for the schedule. The app also has the maps in it. Uh, the app has basically it's a one-stop shop for information. So as you probably read in the notes there, we'd encourage you to download it ahead of time. But again, updating it on site just in case we have to make last-minute changes. Um, I think we already covered this last question I had, which is what happens if a flight is delayed. And I think we called out you, Regina, as a person of point of contact, and you were able to tell us how smoothly things went when you just worked last year with Alaska and getting those kids rescheduled. Well, I want to thank all of you for sharing your experience and wisdom. Um, this is your last chance if you have any questions to park them in our chat. Obviously, if after watching this, if you're watching this after the fact, if there are additional questions, do get in touch with us. But I do want to thank both Shaner and Florence for joining us as experienced conference goers. I know that each and every one of us here from Educators Rising is super stoked to meet everyone this summer who's attending. We wish all of our competitors the best of luck, and I think you've heard some great ways for them to be prepared. I love the idea of preparing to folks in your state that not only gives them experience, but shows them the commitment that our students have towards a future career in education. Um, so we have compiled the National Conference Chaperone Tips document. Um, you can see in the chat that Michael Hill Shaner and Florence have put their email addresses. Thank you graciously for sharing that for anybody who has been on and wants to tap you specifically. And thank you again for the vital role that you play in supporting our students. We cannot do this without you. And please do say hello to us when you get to Portland. Thank you for joining us. Have a great afternoon or evening, wherever you may be.